Here today. I know obviously we're here to let the Secretary of Education, Betsy DeVos, know that we're not going to stand back while she continues to cut taxes for the super rich and corporations and then slash our public education by over $9 million. We're not going to step back. We're not going to stand down and not do something about it. So I'm glad to see you all this morning. Now, if you are sending out any social media, please use hashtags Public Ed First, Ed Equality, and
Ed Equity.
Oh, I'm sorry, Equity, excuse me, and Ed Gap, GAP. Obviously, this is a rally for education rights. I want to thank the co-sponsors today, the Missouri Democratic Party Progressive Caucus, Heartland Alliance for Progress, Our Revolution, Kansas City, the American Federation of Teachers, Local 691, the More 2 organization, More Square, excuse me, and Indivisible KC. This rally is designed to reaffirm a fundamental premise of our country's founders, that strong democracies and thriving communities are built by citizens who have access to well-funded, inclusive, and healthy public education. We've got a few speakers here for you this morning, so we're going to go ahead and kick it off with Reverend Stephanie Swanson. She is the pastor here at the Crossroads Church and our host for the rally today.
Yes, I'm Reverend Swanson here at Crossroads Church. I want to welcome you all for coming, and thank you for coming today. I do want to say that we're also a member of More Squared, which is a host for today, Metro Organization for Racial and Economic Equity, and I am the Clergy Caucus co-chair. We are a part of a larger organization called Gamaliel, which is nationwide, and currently there are 150 women here for Entisaki training to be powerful women in our community. And some of them are out here today to protest with us, including the executive director of Gamaliel, which is Anna Garcia Ashley. So thank you for coming out, everyone. We recognize that there are students here, there are parents, there are community members, there are church folks, there are lots of folks that come out today because we believe in public education. Here at Crossroads Church, we believe that everyone is created in the image of God, and as such, every single person, every single child, every single student is deserving of the same and equal rights and opportunity and dignity and respect and education. And we want to see a broken system fixed. We want to see that students are not discriminated against based on gender or race or class, on xenophobia, on homophobia, on anything like that. All students deserve the same and equal education, and here at Crossroads and part of More Squared, we support that.
Thank you, Reverend. And next up, I would like to introduce State Representative Judy Morgan from the 24th District. She's my union sister and past president of the American Federation of Teachers, Local 691.
Thank you, Billy. Thank you very much. You'll have to excuse me, my allergies are going crazy. So, and I just lost my remarks. We'll get them back here in a minute. Thank you. So I hope I can get through this without coughing. But it's great to see you today, and I'm looking out at all these signs, and I say, wow, that's exactly the same thing I believe in. So thank you so much for being here today. As a teacher and counselor in the Kansas City Public Schools for 29 years, then like Billy said, as the former president of the American Federation of Teachers, Local 691 for another 10 years, yes. I'm still a retired member of that union, very proudly. I'm also a proud member of Billy's union, the Communication Workers of America. As a state rep, I'm able to belong to that. And now as a state representative from Missouri, I believe in the value of an adequately funded, inclusive, and equitable public education. And without that, I really don't think our democracy in our country can exist. And that brings me to my many concerns about Betsy DeVos. I'm first going to talk about her lack of qualifications for the highest education job in our country. She has the highest education job in our country. Experience and knowledge matter when we apply for jobs. Yes. Betsy DeVos is an out-of-touch billionaire with no experience or knowledge for the job she's in as Secretary of the Department of Education. Actually, she's the most unqualified person ever to hold this job. She never took an education course. She didn't spend a day in a school or classroom, and neither she nor her children attended public education. In fact, Betsy DeVos is absolutely clueless about education. You remember in her confirmation hearing how she talked about schools needed guns to protect ourselves from the grizzly bears, and how she didn't know anything about the federal law on kids with disabilities. She thought it was all left up to the states. And when she was sort of like challenged on that, she just went back to how a Florida voucher program required that the students with disabilities in that program sign away their special ed due process rights. She thought that was perfectly okay. She's not an educator. Her claim to fame is in the arena of education is donating millions of dollars to unproven charter schools and private school voucher programs. And that's at the expense of public education, where 90% of our kids attend school. Second, I'm distressed about the types of policies Betsy DeVos is supporting. She's defended Donald Trump's cuts, slashing the Department of Education by $9 billion. That is 13.5% of their total budget. That is an enormous, enormous reduction. Teacher training programs will be cut, special ed programs will be cut, programs for low-income kids, serving them, that will be cut. All of those programs will be impacted. And you all know, with the declining revenues that are facing many local school districts, this kind of cut will be devastating to our kids. And I see some signs on the next one I'm going to talk about. Second, I'm distressed about the types of policy, about the issues with the gender bathrooms, the gender-free bathrooms. Yeah. On another policy matter, she accepted Trump's rollback of a civil rights rule put in place under President Obama, which provided transgender students in public schools with the right to use the bathroom of their choice. As reported in The New Yorker, DeVos noted that she had been quietly supportive of gay rights for some time, but when the rubber met the road, she caved, and she signed off on the new rule. Recently, I read an article by Merit Sanchez. She's one of my favorite editorialists in the Kansas City Star, and she also happens to be one of my constituents. And she wrote about DeVos's visit to the Kansas City Academy. She pointed out that gender and sexual identity are not distractions, and in fact, the school had a transgender prom queen nearly a decade ago. Schools, that's right. Schools like the Kansas City Academy provide the safe, caring, and accepting environment we all want for our kids. I'm also very distressed by her policy and position on sexual assault on college campuses. We know the alarming statistics for sexual assaults among college students, so what does Betsy DeVos do? How does she handle it? She wants to roll back the Title IX protections for these victims of sexual assault. We need to make our, that's right, we need to make our campuses safer, not places where our students have nowhere to turn. So I'm going to close with two quotes, because I think I've shared some kind of depressing news, but I always like to share some hopeful news too. And one of them comes from Tom Brokaw, who I'm sure many of you know is a famous TV journalist. He said, "There is a place in America to take a stand. It is public education. It is the underpinning of our cultural and political system. It is the great common ground." And another one from our wonderful former First Lady, Michelle Obama. "Public education is our greatest pathway to opportunity in our country." And I truly, having been in education all my life, I truly believe that. So even though I have really, really terrible misgivings about the current head of the Department of Education, I have hope because of folks like you. Folks who care about education, who care about our children, who care enough to come out on a very early in the morning on a beautiful fall day. You are what give me hope. Thank you for caring. Thank you for being here. Thank you to the Crossroads Church and to Stephanie for allowing us to use her facility. And keep the faith in public education. Thank you.
All right, next up we have Jenna Squires, who is a current board member of Our Revolution Kansas City and a veteran of the United States Navy.
How's it going, everybody? It's a bigger crowd than I thought. I feel that she chose a great location, actually, to come because, as the representative was saying, that like the school actually has been very progressive in acceptance with their bathroom policies, etc. And I think it's very representative of Kansas City as a whole and our inclusiveness, actually. So I think that's what we can show here together, that, you know, we are one of the more accepting places here in the country, but other places aren't. You know, you have, I'm originally from Charleston, South Carolina. I went to a magnet school where it was a magnet art school, so publicly funded, but if I didn't have that musical background training, I never professionally used my music ability in any way, but I would not have had the ability to learn Chinese in the Navy and actually rank up, get decorated as a sailor in the Navy. And I affiliate that with that musical background that I got through a public education. So those, so I absolutely believe in the arts and before, after school programs and all these other things, because a well-rounded student is a very, you cannot dream the same as big if you don't have that inclusive education that is so encompassing. Because right now, at this very moment, we actually have the Cassini spacecraft that is crashing into Saturn right now, because this is what we have, are dreamers, that if you don't dream big enough, we wouldn't have gone to the moon. The reason why we're even crashing Cassini into Saturn right now is just in case we don't accidentally, like, infect these other planets with our life in some way, to save it for future generations so that they can explore and find it out for themselves in some way. So I think we're standing here against what, you know, this administration really represents. And it is the antithesis of trickle-down economics, because some things do trickle down. And I think that these policies that are being put into place or being rescinded is like the trickling down of these festering wounds of hatred. It's like government-sanctioned bullying that is actually taking place going on. When you're getting rid of these bathroom bills that are, when Obama put into place protection of transgender students. And then when you rescind those protections, then you are saying on the highest levels that it's okay to hate, and that is unacceptable in the United States. That is not what I fought for in this country, and that is not what we stand for as Kansas Citians. And I think that we are here doing good, and we're here to say something, and I'm sorry, Secretary DeVos, but you're wrong in so many things that you do. Thank you.
All right, next up, we have Sarah Starnes, who is with the Heartland Alliance for Progress.
Good morning. Good morning. I'm Sarah Starnes with the Heartland Alliance for Progress. Go to heartlandallianceforprogress.com to learn more about us. Personally, I'm a member of Linwood United Church, which is also a member of More Squared, the Metropolitan Organization for Racial and Economic Equity, as are Reverend Swanson and Reverend Williams, who are going to be speaking soon. Ms. DeVos has no experience in education, but has essentially purchased her role as a leader of a U.S. government department through her and her family's financial contributions to conservative political campaigns and social causes that seek to end campaign contribution limits, privatize the functions of government, limit the obligation of the wealthy and corporations to pay their fair share of taxes, and limit government regulations that protect the health and safety of the American public. Betsy DeVos supporters would like us to believe she is motivated to lead the so-called school choice movement by a love of equal educational opportunity for poor kids who can't afford private schools. But make no mistake, school choice means privatization of education, which many of us see as primarily a public function. By the way, I don't believe that the Kansas City Academy has expressed an interest in receiving government funding to achieve their mission, have they? No. Okay, we don't mind that Ms. DeVos's father, Edgar Prince, a billionaire industrialist, has a net worth of $5.4 billion. We don't mind that her husband, Richard Marvin Dick DeVos, is a multi-billionaire heir to the Amway fortune. We don't mind that her brother, Eric Prince, is the founder of Blackwater and made millions of dollars as a... As a private military services contractor, the world's most powerful mercenary army. But you know, we need to change the rules about how we do that. And so in any event, I wish every person here could be successful in becoming a billionaire. I have no problem with that if you do it the right way. But what we do mind is Ms. DeVos is using her family's fortune to invest millions of dollars in buying influence through private foundations, nonprofits, legal teams, so-called news outlets, political action committees, the Republican Party, and so-called think tanks that are designed to provide biased research propaganda that supports their goal of creating huge profits for themselves. Starting in 1970, the DeVos family has directed at least $200 million into virtually every branch of the new rights infrastructure. In the 1997 op-ed, Ms. DeVos admitted to buying influence by political contributions, saying, "My family is the largest single contributor of soft money to the National Republican Party, and I've decided to stop taking offense at that suggestion." So in addition to profiting financially through buying influence in American politics and government, the DeVos's seek to impose their own religious values regarding abortion, homosexuality, feminism, and modern science on the rest of the country. As a result of Betsy DeVos and her family's investments to buy elections, our educational, legal, and religious institutions, the media, our fundamental individual rights, our national security, our elections, and our entire democracy are at risk. We must pay attention to how the dark money of billionaires is corrupting our country. And we have to stand up to say our democracy is not for sale.
All right, next up we have Ruthie Stevens with The Whole Person.
Good morning. Good morning. The Whole Person is an organization who help people with individuals to help individuals with disabilities to get resources that they need to live in the community. My special role at The Whole Person is transition, helping students who are in school with a disability to get employment, to live independently. So what we do, we go into the classrooms, two staffs and I, and we help them to prepare by teaching them life-giving skills, life skills. So without education, us going into the schools, we know how difficult it is sometimes for traditional students to find employment and to live independently. But our goal at The Whole Person is to help those individuals with disabilities to grow and have independent lives so they can be viable people in our community. So The Whole Person would enjoy and welcome the opportunity to continue to be able to go into our schools and help our students. Thank you.
All right, next up we have Julie Donaldson, President and CEO of MOCSA.
Good morning. I'm excited to see so many supporters out there of survivors of sexual violence. Thank you for coming out and helping us support Title IX. MOCSA is here today. Well, first let me start off. MOCSA is the only rape crisis center serving the greater metropolitan area. And we are here this morning to show our support to survivors of sexual violence and make a clear statement to Secretary DeVos that we oppose any rollback to the progress that's been made with Title IX. Secretary DeVos recently announced changes that will be made to the current guidelines that are in place to protect survivors of sexual assault. While the changes have not been defined, DeVos has expressed concerns that current policies don't provide adequate justice for the accused perpetrators, sending a message that Title IX will be altered in favor of the accused perpetrators and not survivors. We can all agree that rape and sexual violence are destructive crimes that cause lifelong trauma. Survivors deserve access to services, to know their rights, and to receive accommodations to ensure their safety on campus. In addition to providing survivors of sexual violence resources to ensure proper accommodations are being made and safety concerns are being addressed, Title IX also gives survivors a voice while making the issue of sexual violence on campus more visible and providing schools guidance on process and procedures that should be implemented to be compliant with the law. MOCSA stands with survivors and will continue to advocate for their rights, including protecting the progress that has been made with the implementation of Title IX.
Yes. Yes.
And our last speaker this morning will be Reverend Dr. Rodney Williams, pastor at Swope Parkway UCC and president of the NAACP Kansas City. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This morning I do bring you greetings from the greater Kansas City, Missouri, NAACP. I bring you greetings from what I consider to be one of the strongest community organizations on the planet, which is Moore Square, as well as the Missouri Faith Voices. Whenever I'm blessed to speak at an educational rally, I can't help but come from the framework of the landmark case called Brown versus the Board of Education in Topeka. According to Diane Ravitch, a research professor at New York University, she states, and I agree, that the fight for public education is the new issue of our civil rights causes of today. Brown versus Board of Education is part of a moral vision as it pertains to the national goals set forth in the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, which helps to regulate American ideas about issues like freedom, justice, and equity. Dr. King once said that when the architects of this republic wrote these magnificent words of the Constitution and Declaration of Independence, they were signing a promissory note which every American was to inherit. The only way that this can become a reality for every American is through strong and equal access to high-quality public education. More than 63 years after Brown versus Board of Education, there are signs and major indicators all around us that a reversal is on the horizon. Donald Trump gave America a major indication that reversal was on the horizon in the public education when he appointed an incompetent Betsy DeVos as Commissioner of Public Education, not of a city, but of the entire nation. Betsy DeVos, based on her policies, is an enemy of public education. She is more interested in extracting money from public schools for the expansion of charter schools. Her policies indicate that she is more interested in providing vouchers and funding religious schools than she is for funding public school systems that are barely making it. We stand here knowing that all children in Kansas City and throughout Missouri and across America are still suffering and experiencing separate and unequal education. We stand here knowing that her policies are rooted in the twin injustices of racism and poverty. We know that her policies are pushing us backwards towards a status of separate and unequal. The Commissioner of Education is proving what the great educator John Cooks calls savage inequalities. But we demand a public school system that will provide for all of our children a world-class education. When you are extracting money from poor public school systems in order to advance charter schools, you are creating savage inequalities. Whenever you have a commissioner that has policies that are not pro-public education, that are not pro-children, they are actually an attack and assault on the children of America. And we are here today to protect our children from the assault of Betsy DeVos. We must fight so that every child in America is able to cash in on the promissory note that guarantees each child a world-class education from a world-class system, from a world-class nation. This nation has taken giant steps backwards concerning equal education under Betsy DeVos, and we're here to fight, we're here to fight, we're here to fight until a change comes.
All right, that's actually going to end the speaking part of the program. Now, before we actually show Betsy why we're here today, we ask that you do keep it peaceful. Please stay out of the street. The police have asked us to cooperate with that, so we definitely are here, and we don't want to distract the children, our children that are in that building learning. So.
Don't get on the school property.
And no, Billy, no school property.
And please don't step on the school property, because you don't want to ride in the back of a paddy wagon this morning. Thank you for everybody for being here. Thank you for the organizations that got together to organize this. Thank you to all of our great speakers today.
Did you finally get a picture of Sarah?
Let's bring it. It's not my idea.
Good early morning.
Lisa had some coffee, so, and a friend of mine was a teacher here getting some M&Ms. So,
There you go.
I'm good to go.
So, Zoom.